Good morning, everyone. Seamus Macaulay, CEO of Bright Green here, and sending through this week's vlog, which thankfully are back on track in terms of timing. So just by way of review, what we've covered so far is in the first video, really we looked at the DEA and outlined what a pivotal and foundational piece the DEA registration is to Bright Green. We also looked then at the FDA and explored the myriad ways that Bright Green intend to engage with the FDA and really develop their products as we move forward. We then looked at how those relate into the revenue streams and indeed the market penetration that Bright Green aim to address in the months and years to come. And then last week we looked at EB5 program and how the access to the EB5 capital would allow Bright Green to execute on all of those plans. A key element then for those EB5 funds is the focus of this week's video, which is the phase 2 development of our growing and manufacturing facilities in Grants, in New Mexico. So as we outlined in the EB5 funds, there are significant volume of capital that are available to us through the EB5 program. And this week I wanted to begin to look at what those use of funds would look like and how those will translate into the Bright Green business. So the expansion then of the current greenhouse facilities, which just by way of a reminder are currently 22 acres with its processing centre that we're currently working on to gain our DEA registration. We intend then to expand the current capacity from 22 acres and add another 114 acres with an additional processing centre and manufacturing facility combined with those new acreage, which are located really quite close to our current facilities, and therefore the aim would be to have almost a campus feel to the full facility in the vicinity. Now, those 114 acres really solidify our capacity. They really solidify our scope and our ability to service both the national in terms of the United States market, but also then of course the international market when we think about the exports that the DEA registration will provide. The facility themselves, importantly to Bright Green, are really being sourced to use renewable energy. They will be a full solar power and wind powered facility generating over 100 megawatts and really focusing in on the renewable energy aspect of our operations and indeed our product as we move forward. Of course, with the EB5 funds, job creation is one of the key elements. And as we look at the construction and indeed the operation of the facility as we move forward, those plans will account for a large proportion of the new hires that we intend to fulfill as part of the EB5 investment funds and indeed the job creation. As outlined last week, it was President Biden's intention to really facilitate investment for job creation and indeed for economic benefit, both in terms of the local area, but of course to the US national interest in general. So when we look at the capacity that the additional 114 acres will provide us, it really allows us to segment our product or in terms of the plants and what it is that we grow and subsequently what it is that we extract. That allows us to segment by institutional demand and institutional interest in terms of the cannabinoids that are being used and being investigated, but it also allows us to differentiate by product and of course then grow according to ratios for each of those products that we look to develop, both from an FDA pharmaceutical perspective, but also the general medical marijuana market as we move forward. The plans are really quite extensively drawn up at this point, and we have an awful lot of detail that has been mapped out. Of course, as we move forward and begin to look to develop those facilities, we will review those and ensure that our plans are fit for purpose and ensure that we're delivering really what the corporate objectives are, but also at a local level in terms of employment and indeed in terms of economic development for the state of New Mexico, will ensure that we are constantly refreshing that as we move forward. When we tie that piece together and add it into really the corporate strategy moving forward, you can begin to see all of the strands come together very well as we look towards utilizing our DEA registration to allow us really the fundamental FDA engagement, both from the individual pharmaceuticals, but also then from the wider medical marijuana approach that we intend to take in the months ahead. And additionally then, as we look at the research and development costs, that again, those are all covered inclusively within the capital plan as we move forward. Add that into the EB5 funds as we draw those down and put them to use, and the job creation, plus the capacity that enables us to have really at the end of that construction and the operation of the full acreage, which is 136 acres with manufacturing, GMP, GACP standards adhered to, and really begin to address the national demand that we have in terms of the product placement, but more importantly, the quality, the consistency and the accuracy with which we develop those products and extract the cannabinoids relevant to each of the various products. It really does lay out for us a 24 to 36 month window of clear objectives, clear targets and clear milestones that we aim to implement in the company as we move forward. Generally speaking, we're at a really exciting time in Bright Green's development because we can actually tangibly see the movement and the development towards achieving some of those key objectives that we've outlined in the videos here. But secondly, because we're really starting to create a feedback loop, both from industry peers, but as well from the regulatory bodies who can also begin to see the key attributes and I guess the key deliverables that Bright Green are able to bring to bear in the weeks and months ahead. I think one of the key elements as we move forward, which will be the topic of next week's video, is of course then what skill set and what type of individuals and experience do we require to recruit into the company to allow us to really deliver on the promise that each of those aspects hold and really start to deliver some key value for the shareholders and I think to the market as well as we move forward. So thanks so much for your time this week. Next week we will cover in a little bit more detail some of those skill sets and some of those key attributes that we require in order to execute on the plan. So in the meantime, I hope you have a great week, stay healthy and look forward to next week's video.